Hey, great text. Yeah. The cognitive philosophy involved with bigotry is an interesting thing. Um, Often bigotry, is this negative side, but of course it's really categorical thinking gone awry, as you pointed out. It's related to misapprehension of category, which, as it turns out, happens to be natural because we are limited to using categories, and the granularity of the category um, is something that we tune in on, what granularity. And bigotry happens to be both a very coarse grained granularity of categorization combined with generally with hatred or negativity. I think we've come to the point to realize even a positive racism, like all black people can dance. Well, being able to dance is a good thing, but to have that expectation is still, not a positive thing. And obviously, if someone puts that as an expectation, it actually is negative in an event of experience as well. So it's really, to me, in terms of the philosophical issues and the cognition of thinking this stuff through, it is related to um, uh, too simplistic categorization, simple-minded thinking, desire to have a simple way to think. And philosophically, it has to do, its justification comes from a belief in a philosophy of essence. And this is one reason that I'm against belief in essences, and for people realizing that essence is like a poem you write down on a piece of paper. It might capture what it's about in some sense, but it's not the fundamental inside that thing essence. And when people make really coarse-grained categorizations, once they're so obviously, clumsy, taking a whole race of people at once, for example, they're, you know, there's sort of a burden uh, to demonstrate upon them, why how they could do that and justify that. And it's done through an argument that advocates for essences, that things have essential essences. And if you get someone in the right category, you know, um, they're Muslim, or they're doctors, or they're, if you get them in the right category, be it racial or otherwise, that's all you need to know. All the qualities will follow in the category. And it's an interesting thing. I've been reading uh, on women, fire, and dangerous things. I think it's called something like that, which is about categorization and certain interesting ideas. Like categories are really made by networks of related categories. Like there's uh, single mother, unwed. There's single mother, unwed mother, fit mother, good mother. All of these are clustered around a mother category, and there's all this kinds of different qualities, including contradictory qualities, in this web. And if you look at these webs, the most fundamental categories are really things that you can convey with a gesture. You know, Categories having to do with gestures so much that you could communicate them about them with a gesture. And that's like the most basic of languages before even verbal. If you think about it, we share a lot of those and can teach those to people you didn't share a common language with, like pointing and whatnot. So the philosophy of cognition, the philosophical elements of uh, thinking about um, you know, what is just and unjust, or fitting and unfitting, or what is the right criteria for our categories. The main element is that these people are willing to rely on a philosophy of essence for a very coarse-grained thing. And when you look at it, it really doesn't seem to make sense structurally. Anybody that could have the reasoning, that, whose mind is just physically evolved to the point to think that up, ought to be able to see the holes in it. So obviously, as we know, there's ulterior motives, and it's because of their emotional mechanics, their emotional logic that they use, internal and below that level of overt reasoning of what they say they believe in, that invariably justifies bigotry. There's often personal fears, or it could be hopes and desires and images, and all kinds of things can have this poison web within it, which uses the philosophy justifications just as merely as justifications. Is not the source of it, of course. But we can still deal with it philosophically, right? We can still break it down into philosophical components. And so that's what it is, They believe in essence, which is an error, and they believe in super coarse grain categorizations, and of course the essences are associated with the categories, and which is also just obviously simplistic. So a lot of more sophisticated bigots will break it. Oh no, not that. Oh, it's an exception, and try to pretend their system's more fine-grained. But I agree that it's really a attitude. It's an attitude about, I put you in, I know what type of person you are, therefore I know what I need to know about you. That's the bigotry. And even if it was positive, like, I put you in the category of a really upstanding person, and now I know what to expect of you. See, I've always felt that that's kind of a bigotry against me. People put those kinds of expectations because they're going, but you're a good person. I have you in the good person category. Here's what I expect, So that too is if we don't call it bigotry, it's because bigotry is for this more hateful side of this thing that isn't, the more obviously hateful side. But there's still an inappropriate generalization, the same kind going on there, but it's either benign or maybe even someone could say it's positive, to get that kind of support. Even if you're being categorized, hey, if it's in a good category. I don't really feel that way. I never liked being categorized, period. But I had to come to learn but in all this reasoning I use categories. So there's this positive use of categories are like fire. There's a million awesome things in science and knowledge we can do with them. But they are, in the just regular world, their use is crazy how they've been used.